Hey everybody, it's Brian Burns. Welcome to this episode of the B2B Revenue Leadership Podcast. Today I have Mac back on the show from Rainmaker Force, all one word, .com, not Rainmaker, but rainmakerforce.com. And we're going to be talking about how do we solve that sales forecasting problem? How do we really get real data, real stages, real levels of commitment and state into the CRM so we have a predictable way of judging where a deal is and how long it's going to take to close. I mean, this has been a classic problem for leadership forever. For a lot of either political reasons, technology reasons. But today there's just a smarter way of doing it with Rainmaker Force. And we're going to get into how customers of theirs have been able to leverage that and produce a forecast that is predictable, repeatable, and that they can go to bed at night knowing what and where deals are. And if you're having problems with this or you need help with your sales team, go to my site, b2brevenue.com. I've got 3 courses, everything from getting your SDRs, sales development reps, business development reps from 0 to 100 in as fast as possible. It takes about 60 days to get them through the process, but it's a year-long course, as well as getting meetings with total strangers on the outbound cold side, with start the conversation, get the meeting, and then on the complex sale, how to close the complex sale. So check that out at b2brevenue.com. And let's get into the show with Mac and talk about how do you really have a quality forecast, a predictable one. Here we go. Hey, Mac, welcome back. Hey, last time we were talking about more just the problems. We really didn't offer many solutions. From your vantage point, what do you see as kind of helping this problem out, this problem of not really knowing where deals are, not really having a solid handle on the forecast, going into the end of the quarter with this mysterious number and pipeline and trying to determine what's really going to happen?
Yeah, thank you, Brian. It's great to be back on the show, and now looking at the solution side of it is even more interesting to me, because I think a lot of people, to be honest, recognize the problems and they're good at their jobs because they understand the problems really well. And I would credit you for actually talking about it in many of your podcasts, which I've been an avid listener to, and you've talked to many sales leaders and I think broached the right topics, and you see that there's this common theme. They really understand the problem, and everyone has found a little recipe to solve it, and they do it really well. But I think to answer your question, how do we solve the fundamentals of it is where the opportunity is, if you will, from a business perspective. So I can tell you a little about what we do in Rainmaker Force. I have the privilege of selling sales to salespeople, actually selling programmatic, repeatable, objective sales to salespeople. What I mean by that is to help companies run sales as a data-driven science.
And
sales is an art.
How do you do that, though? I mean,
absolutely. I mean, sales is an art, and we recognize that you cannot write getting a customer to sign a contract. But there are aspects about sales that can be automated, that can be made repeatable, made objective. Like you were asking, how do you know that, walking into a end of quarter, that you're not surprised? How do we solve those kinds of problems that, reps are empowered with the right things and management knows exactly what's going on so that they're all on the same team as opposed to against each other and fighting it out in internal meetings? What we have uncovered through extensive research, and this goes back more than a decade, since 2005 actually. We've been doing very long tail research at various points in time. What we have found is it is a problem of transparency, lack of visibility, and making sales a black box. How many times, even today, do we see where reps open a deal, they're working the deal, and when the manager asks them for an update, they said, the customer is going to sign next month, or wow, this is a wonderful opportunity that we have, and I did blah blah and blah, and they sound really exciting. They sounded really exciting, and we should pursue this opportunity. And I think we can make a great solution for them. It's moving really fast. Next month. I'm going to put them in the commit, and let's do a demo for them. Oh, I've met this person yesterday, so on and so forth. They keep building this glass half full approach. And the person who's listening to it, manager, they want to believe it, and they do, because it's the pressure of numbers. You really have to perform. But what is happening is, just in this example, which is happening today as we speak in everybody's sales organization, it's that rep who has a perception of what is going on with that opportunity. It's their view of things. I mean, something that's happening today outside in the weather, what you think is a very nice day could be a very hot day for somebody, because they came from a different context. So how you see things is how you would present it to somebody else. And because of the fact that I really don't know why you said that. And I kind of believe that you said it in the right way because I like you, or I am your friend, or we work in the same team. I don't tend to really examine what went on underneath to make you say those things. And as time pressures go up, as a manager, they can't be talking to their reps 24 hours a day. Work needs to get done. And they have 10 reps or 15 reps to talk to. So there's too many things going on. So I barely have 30 seconds to talk to you about a specific deal. Maybe a minute. If it's a large enough deal, maybe I'll have a half an hour meeting with a few other people. But it's all just trying to look at the same problem from different angles, but relying on one person's perception. And
is it that the rep doesn't know the steps that the customer has to go through, or the customer may not even know the steps that they have to go through?
Both sides. It's actually both sides. Actually, the way I would look at sales is, it's not trying to do X, Y, or Z, trying to sell to more customers, or hitting your quota, nothing like that. It's all about creating the buying vision for the customer, looking at it from their perspective. Yeah. The rep knows exactly what steps need to be followed. They know that the customer is going through certain things internally, and the rep's job is to help them do that, facilitate conversations. The customers have so much of information at their fingertips nowadays that they get lost as well. There's so many competitors knocking on their doors. And by the way, they're not really competitors in a specific way. It's not that I'm selling product A and you're also selling product A. Actually, what's happening is we're selling a product that looks similar to each other, but I'm giving you certain features. Somebody else is talking about certain other features. And this is what the customers are faced with. Oh, these guys have these 3 features. Those guys have those other 7, and this is blue and that's red. No, what's happening here is, what problem is the customer trying to solve? And are we solving that problem? And do the reps recognize that it doesn't matter what features you have? In fact, you don't even have to have any features. You just become a trusted advisor, and they will see that you are talking the right things. And the fact that you are able to walk that problem in their shoes gives you that privilege of creating a buying vision for them. So that's where that's how to solve this. People know the steps on both sides, but people get lost. The pressure of time and revenue hits, and tend to, forget that there's a forest through the trees, and you're trying to overcome little obstacles here and little obstacles there. And they finally become order takers. Sales is just about, they never came back to me. The customer got busy. They went on vacation. That's why I couldn't close the deal, or something else happened. They're going through an acquisition. Well, come on. When you spend time with them, you're supposed to know this. Yeah. Right? You can't blame that. So the fact that the order did not get fulfilled is then talked about in the forecast calls, or after the month has ended or the quarter has ended. And then everybody kind of throws up their arms and say, okay, great, let's look at the next deal. And I hope that you, Mr. Rep, will cover this next quarter. And then the manager says, yes, sure. Oh, the rep says, yes, sure. And here's the plan for it. So it just becomes this whole exercise, meaning leading up to nothing.
And how have you guys gone about solving this problem?
Oh, yes, absolutely. This is something I'm very, very passionate about, as you can hear in my voice. We've talked to so many people about this, and sales leaders, managers, directors, reps, they all recognize it. The way we solve it is making sales first off, as a data-driven science. Let's make data objective, transparent, and believable. The second part of the same solution is to make sales buyer-centric as opposed to seller-centric. Now, when it's seller-centric, I have these opportunities, right? I have these things I have to go through. I have to do 16 demos this year. That's a seller-centric view. Right, yeah. I have to send out calls today, I have to go and reach 50 people. I'm going to call out. That's a seller-centric view. And those are important. That's necessary, but it's not sufficient. Sufficiency comes in when you've done enough that you have literally handheld the customer to a point where you've given them the right information and you recognize the problem from their perspective. You've gone through the stages they go through. They evaluate, they look at collateral, they get a perception about it, then they look at maybe examining certain solutions more, not everything, because they have limitations of time. And then they look at maybe trialing something out, or maybe even purchasing something. However, they don't want to get committed to a 3-year contract just because it sounds good. They also want proof, social proof, that is, who else has used this solution? And oh, by the way, what were their use cases? Does that relate to me? So everything is from their perspective. They have a budget. Customer has a budget, which is not, by the way, held by one person. As we know, the world has changed. The budget comes from multiple places. Even if you're the executive vice president of sales, you don't say yes and the budget just appears out of thin air. You have to get your counterpart, the CFO, to agree to it. So there's always a minimum of 2 or 3 people, even at the highest levels, control budget. So all these things are what we look at, making it completely buyer-centric. And tell you what, as you look at this, it might sound scary. Oh my God, am I losing control of the sale if everything is centered around the customer or driven by the customer? Actually, no, that is sales, because now you have a clear view of what is going to happen because the customer has told you what to do, what they want, what they're looking to do, and what they want from you. And as you look at it over the course of time, and let's say this has been going on for the last few months with your sales organization, where the customers give you objective data, it's beautiful. Now you know exactly what to call for your numbers for the end of the quarter. Your forecasts are clean with very minimal variance. I mean, yes, customers can change their mind, but as you do it more and more, it's becoming like a fitness habit. Every day you run for 2 miles or 3 miles. So it's second nature to you, and you can expect certain things in the right manner. You're no longer controlled by opinions. No longer controlled by the black box, and even reps feel more empowered because they can literally lead the customer down that buying journey. Yeah. That's the beauty and the control that you have in sales, and literally becoming the trusted advisor. So we're actually, if I really boil it down, we're giving a solution, technology solution, that makes the rep in control of makes the rep, the manager, the vice president in control of sales like never before.
Now, I would think that this is not only just technology, but there's a huge consulting or cultural change that must take place within your customer base. Because, having been in the sales training space for a long time, the number of companies I go into who think it's, qualification call, presentation, demo, proposal, follow up. And I'm like, that's what you do. That's not what they do.
That's right.
And they go, what are you talking about? I go, well, where do deals die? And I go, Well, shortly after we give the presentation, if they don't call us back, we know that we lost to no decision. I go, no, you lost to poor salesmanship. Right? There was no technical sale. There was no business sale. You talked to one person. And I've literally had people who have been in sales, the complex sale for 20 years, who, Brian, you're the first person who told me that there's more than one person involved at my customer site. And I kind of shake my head and I'm like, oh boy. And I could always tell when you go through someone's forecast, it's like, okay, who is this? Is it just a user buyer? Okay, who do they report to? I don't know. Yeah. How much of that work do you have to do?
Yeah, you actually literally took the words out of my mouth. These things, like we just discussed, are not something I can send in a brochure and people just believe it. You're actually, the first step of what we do is discovery. And that's not a discovery call. We actually say we will do a short consulting engagement. Now, the beauty is we have technology to back it up, meaning we talk to them about what is really going on in a very short period of time. Consultants take 3 to 4 months to even figure out what the problem is. We know what the problem is because we've talked to thousands of sales leaders. So it's easy for us to go through this list and find out exactly what the pain points are. And our technology kind of uses that information to spit out a lot of results that we can really handhold them with and help them understand the value of looking at it from a buyer-centric view rather than a seller-centric view. Teaching them things like what you just said, that sales is a consensus. It's a team situation. It is not a one-person situation talking to another. It's not a one-on-one. It's actually many to many. So while we show them, look, we can walk this problem in your shoes, then they realize, oh, these guys really do understand it from my perspective, and they respect where I'm coming from. So it is true that we have to help them transform for the better. And since there's a lot of objections and there's some paranoia or fears, we say, that's okay. We're not asking you to commit. Let's actually solve the problem for you, show you how it's done, and then we'll give you the tool so that you can do it yourself forever in future. So a lot of consulting happens. It's not just the consulting sale here, but actually a consulting engagement.
Yeah.
It's not, and since it is just such a short term, literally like 3 weeks, a small snippet of consulting, it really helps everybody because that is our way of saying that we recognize the problem and that we can solve it for you. And don't you agree? And many of the times they do say, oh, yes, that's right. Thank you for walking us through this. And now we have a set of data that we have collected about them and how they can solve it in their context and help every single member of their sales organization. So it's all about benefits and the value. We talk about value selling, right? But value selling to customers. We have the privilege at Rainmaker Force to do value selling to our clients, not about Rainmaker Force, but selling the value of value selling, if you will. Kind of funny, but that's how it starts. There are, of course, some sales leaders who already do this. They know exactly what the problem is. In fact, one of the gentlemen that was invited to your show, he spoke a few weeks ago about what works in a sales organization, how he manages it in a very strong and pristine way. It was inspiring to me. He's one of those people, and there are many like that, who already know what's going on. They have a full handle of the problem. So to them, I'm not even trying to convince them. I'm just showing them, I see it from your perspective. Just with a small conversation, we know exactly that we are related in different ways, and we have to work together. So there are people who already see it. They've spent time on it. There are also people who know it, but they're unable to make the change, and that's where we help with the consulting engagement. And there are some people who just don't see it and who refuse to see it, and that's okay as well. We're not saying that we are the panacea of all problems, and everyone who sees our Rainmaker Force will immediately sign and work with us. No, that doesn't happen. It's just an evolution. And one of the points that you had mentioned a while ago when we talked was, how do you respect the client's deadlines versus our own deadlines? And this is where we actually eat our own dog food. We walk them through it. They say this is what we're looking to do, and that might be 2 or 3 quarters out, but that's okay. The solution is not to just say, oh, I didn't get the sale, and I'm still on, and how do I solve that pressure of revenue? The answer literally is having enough deals in the pipeline. But when you respect the client's deadlines and you become the trusted advisor with this objective, clear data, making this completely buyer-centric, then you know that you can literally call which deals will happen at what times, because you know exactly what they're going through.
Yeah, because then your product kind of is a sales guideline or a sales map, what I used to call a map to money. In my book was, these are the things that have to happen for a deal to happen. Here are the things that can go wrong. Here's how to prevent them. And if you don't do these things, this is what's going to happen. And
right.
Yeah. And how complex have you gotten with clients? I mean, maybe if you could give us an example to go by, that would be helpful.
Yeah. Well, we have had the experience, and we work with small, medium, and large companies. Our clients have been as small as 10 rep sales teams, literally a small sales team, but accountable for a lot of things. Wonderful, people who are really serious about success. We also have medium-sized companies, 300, 400 million in range, wow. Where the entire sales team is about 200, 250 people. But they have, 70% of it is coming through renewals, and they're a very established brand name. And then we've also had massive multi-billion-dollar companies where it's not that the entire company wants to jump and start using Rainmaker Force, but that's where the power of the consulting engagement comes in, when we can share with them, how we can literally go into their sales process and look at it and break it down piece by piece. So this can get as complex as the client is. And we don't purport to solve every problem that they have. I'm not going to help them hire better salespeople, because that's not what we're, there are also financial aspects of it that I'm not privy to. However, we can get into the complexity of value selling. We can get into whether they're using the challenger method, whether they're actually how they're doing target account selling, what is the personal win of their customer versus the professional win, what is the business plan that gets to a specific end state, how do you build a political landscape inside the customer base. We can get we've done it to that extent. And if you roll it all the way back to a smaller company, we are looking at it from a different perspective, where how do we generate velocity in the sales pipeline? How many leads are they getting day in and day out? Is the funnel too chunky for their appetite, or is it too slow? And what can we do about it? And at the end of the day, how do we create consistent growth? That is the problem that we solve for all our clients. And we start with that consulting many a time, but sometimes it's just directly with technology to generate consistent growth. There's some people who are doing really well. It's ironic. You would think that people only with sales, the revenue problems come to us. Not at all. We actually have had clients who do really well in sales and who are having gangbuster numbers, just going fantastic. The products are incredible. They run their sales team really well, and so on. They also recognize that they want to continue doing that. And they never want to face a situation where they're looking at, falling numbers, a flat curve or a declining curve. So they want to be ahead of these problems. And they also know, in a very mature way, that, you make hay while the sun shines, and after that, things will change. Competition comes in. So we help them do that. So net, if you look at it, we're looking at sales as a discipline, getting into how to help them, looking at their capacity versus capability issues, looking at the revenue exposures, and finding out from their context what it is that we have to do to make it successful. But I don't want to make this sound just like a consultant talking. Our solution is that we actually back it up with technology. We give them the fishing rod, if you will, after we teach them how to fish, so they can use that fishing rod in the best way possible. And the differentiation that we bring to the table is that we actually have value selling built into our technology. So the promise of Rainmaker Force is to measure and align with the customer's expectations in the sales process itself, even before the contract is signed. And that's how we solve the problem of where deals are not lost, where you have more than 50% of your qualified leads not going anywhere. We solve the problem very proactively when you match value with your customers from the get.
It's more than just what it is; it's what to do with it. And
that's exactly right.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. And we also made it very simple. We have, and this is a very something that people have really liked. Every single person we've talked to, and that's hundreds of them who have done demos with us, they said this is fantastic. I mean, bar none, everyone said this, which is we have built-in sales questions into the opportunities. So every rep in their team asks the same questions, consistent value messaging to the customers. And these questions are customizable because we are technology. We customize it to each customer's standpoint for their products and services. Sometimes they're in a commoditized product space. Sometimes they're very unique. We even have our own clients who are consulting companies who use this because it's built-in questions. The consistency is remarkable. Every rep, imagine 200 reps having 10 deals each. That's 2,000 deals per month. That's being worked in many different ways today. No one actually knows what's going on with each rep because they all have their own methods. We brought them all into the same standard of truth, consistent. It's like you can think of it as an exam, a standardized test. Everybody does the same thing. Each customer of theirs faces the same question, same value across every rep. Yes, they do customize it here and there and make that thing creative, but you get this data that is absolutely true, and now you know what to do with it. So when we talked about the danger of the sales dashboard back, in another session, this is where if the data is true and you've verified it and everybody has done it the same way, now you can really do something with that data and really examine and do course corrections. So that's how the whole thing has come together. We started with transparency, as I said. We help them look at it in an objective way, data-driven science, and looking at it from a buyer-centric standpoint. At the end of the day, it has to be executed. Like you said, it's not just telling them the what, but it's actually what it means and how to do it. Built-in sales questions and walking them through value selling so that we can measure that value even before the customer has signed the deal, so that you know where the gaps are. The power of it is just imagine out of the few things, 5 or 6 things that each product purpose to do to a customer. And if the customer actually tells you before the sale, hey, look, I don't see the value in these 3 or 4 things. Isn't that wonderful that somebody has told you that directly? You never have seen that before. You believe in one person's opinion, and that's how sales has been going on. So that's why the transformation is happening, and a lot of people who believe in this because they're tired of the old way. They're tired of not generating consistent growth. They're seeing the value in it, and they're getting really behind this bandwagon.
It sounds pretty interesting. How do people go about learning more about it, taking a look at it, and getting in touch with you?
Oh, great. Thank you for asking me that. Literally, it's on rainmakerforce.com. It's one word, rainmakerforce.com. And everything is listed on our website. There's a contact form. We respond to every single request, regardless of how difficult or crazy it might sound. And a lot of people find me through LinkedIn as well. So that's an easy way. If you look up my name, Mac, M-A-C-K, Sundaram. You can look me up, support Rainmaker Force. And it's an easy way to get in touch with us. And it's about time everybody realizes, come on, there's a better way to do this. Yes. Whether you use Rainmaker Force or not, there's a way to do sales, and everybody knows the answer already. So I think it's that whole revolution is coming, and it's fantastic to see the power of technology and all of this. And I do appreciate all the support you're providing, Brian, in kind of bringing that, galvanizing that support and bringing one voice to sales and explaining the problems in the right way so that people can start looking at solutions now.
Well, that's it. I mean, I love the idea of being able to break it down, codify it, measure it, and then improve it, instead of it being this one-off every time. Because there are so many commonalities that happen from deal to deal, and that's how reps learn. And to be able to put it into the system instead of the system just being this oblique bucket of data that is basically whatever the manager told them to do instead of what's really happening. It's very frustrating.
I hope people see that you speak about it not just as a commentator, but someone who has actually done this as a rep, as a manager, director, vice president in the largest of companies. So it comes from true experience. You're not just talking about it. So the training courses you've been doing, there's a lot of power to it. Well, you have to recognize.
It's all about what you're talking about. Is about breaking it down into these steps of what the customer has to do to purchase it, the product. Talking about why they would do it, which is the value, and understanding what they're going to run into, what they're going to need, and typically what each of these steps is. Instead of just sending a proposal and hoping that there's a champion there that's going to do the selling for you.
Right. No, that's absolutely true. That's why it's fascinating, I think, and I feel I'm privileged that I've got a chance to work in sales. There's so many things we could have done, anyone with their careers, but a lot of us have chosen to be in sales because it is so vibrant. There's so many things going on. And you can learn about it. Every time you think you're good, you always find someone who's better at certain things that they talk about that you did not know. And that's wonderful. Actually, they all think, when we talk to non-sales people, they actually think we have a big ego. Actually, we don't. How can you have an ego when you get beat up by customers every day? Yep. You cannot. Right. So we're the biggest students of all. And along with being a student is also learning better and better techniques, like in your courses, looking at problems differently now and now trying to solve it in a different manner. But all for the success of it. Once someone feels that, oh, wow, this is actually leading us to success, they will keep doing more of it. And I like the format of your courses specifically, where you've actually broken it down. It's simple. You're not sitting there for 2 days and going through, Brian just barking in your ears. It's little snippets, little things that you can just take away and immediately apply to your work.
Great.
And see whether it's right, and bring it back to you. You have these office hours and talk about, hey, Brian, I tried this, but this didn't work, and kind of having an ear with a sales expert like yourself, a practitioner, who can look at that problem and help them with it. So this is where the collaborative, as they say, social selling. I look at it differently. Social selling is when you have the benefit of someone like a Brian Burns, someone like a Bruce Ackerman, who come to these shows and they talk about what that is social, where you can be there's a village behind you who has made you who you are, and that a better salesperson for that. Excellent. So it's fantastic.
Great. Thanks, Mac.
I appreciate it, Brian. Thank you very much.
Hey, I hope that wasn't too much plugging or promotion, but it's just true. It really is. It's just that we have to be able to get the details out of the state of the deal based off of what the customer or the prospect is really going to do, what they're really saying, and understanding what they're up against, what they have to do on their end to get the transaction completed, both politically economically and administratively. Now, people don't talk about this because typically they don't know about it. They think that there's just this magic button that somebody hits and a purchase order is sent to you. It's not that easy. Everyone brings up their little pound of flesh that they want to get out of it. Everybody comes up with a reason why not to do it or why they should delay. But do check out rainmakerforce.com, see exactly how they're doing it, if it's a match for you. We all have this problem. And what we have is basically a dashboard, and we're seeing what the reps want us to see or what we're forcing them to show us, as opposed to the reality of where things are. And we have to open up that black box of decision-making of the complex sale in large organizations and understand the steps that it takes. If your reps don't know what a purchase request is and who has to sign it and what exactly you need in writing to book a deal, and quit calling it the sales prevention team and start understanding exactly what has to happen and the steps down to the micro steps and what can go wrong on each of them and how to prevent it instead of repairing it. That's what it's all about. That's what I'm here to try and help you for. If you're in the marketing side and you want to learn about how to do creative demand gen, connect up with me. I've got my calendar on the website, B2B Revenue, under training. It's the second link down. The first one's on the courses. The second one, just get on my calendar. If you're serious, get a 15-minute conversation. See if it's a match for you. If it is, great. If it isn't, I'll point you in the right direction, and appreciate you sharing the show. If you see my content and I haven't linked up with me on LinkedIn, it's Brian G. Burns on LinkedIn. Just send me an invite. I'll connect up with you. And thanks for listening.